Hello. Today I want to tell you about something a little bit different. Not a book, not a short story, not a play. One of my supporters on the channel has been writing to me and she told me that she is a part of a book club. Wonderful. She said that her book club has been meeting for 50 years. Isn't that something fantastic? A book club that has been active for 50 years. And she was one of the founding members of this book club. To celebrate the 50-year anniversary of this book club, she put together this booklet, The Book Group. Let me read you the introduction. Her name is Pam. In the spring of 1975, Pam, Linda, and Pam had the idea to gather their friends to form a book group, inspired by nothing loftier than wanting to carve out a dedicated time to read and discuss a good book amidst their lives with toddlers. The world around them was in a state of flux. Gerald Ford was the president. Hugh Carey was the governor of New York. Abe Beame presided as mayor, and the city teetered on the brink of bankruptcy. The Vietnam War ended. The feminist movement was well underway. Captain and Tennille's Love Will Keep Us Together was #1 on the charts. Billie Jean King and Arthur Ashe won Wimbledon. Telephone party lines were disappearing, and the area codes had just been introduced. In 2004, we celebrate what started 50 years ago. This booklet contains lists of our reading through the years, 5 decades of books that evoke memories of great discussions, shared and divided opinions, thoughtful preparation by presenters, amazing camaraderie, respect and good humor, and always a table of tasty treats. Though the world has changed dramatically, the love of reading that brought 21 friends together in 1975 still sustains the group today. Happy 50th birthday. Happy 50th birthday. New York City, October 2024. I'd always wanted to be a part of a book group, but then my reading taste became so extreme that I thought that I would never be able to become a part of one, because the books that I like to read, I wouldn't in good faith ever recommend them to anyone else, because a lot of my selections, well, first of all, are so very difficult to find. Like, I have been playing hide and seek with these books for the last 30 years. And my taste in literature is rather, I'm into the deep, lost and forgotten stuff these days. But I still always wanted to be a part of a book club. To have been a part of a book club for 50 years is just one of the most fantastic things. And these people have been reading excellent stuff. Let me read you some of the lists of the books that they have read from certain years. So the very first year, the inaugural year, 1975, 1976, they read Love and Will by Rollo May, Alive by Piers Paul Reed, The Stepford Wives by Ira Levin, Breakfast of Champions by Kurt Vonnegut, Summer Before the Darkness by Doris Lessing, Oliver Wiswell by Kenneth Roberts, Something Happened by Joseph Heller, Eye of the Storm by Patrick White, and To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. That's some highbrow stuff in 1976, you know? 2 years later, 1977 to 1978, The Age of Innocence, Edith Wharton, The House of Mirth, Edith Wharton, Edith Wharton, a biography by R.W.B. Lewis, Middlemarch, George Eliot, Lovers and Tyrants by Francine Duplessis Gray, Ordinary People, Judith Guest, Frankenstein, Mary Shelley, Dracula, Bram Stoker, Charterhouse of Parma by Stendhal, Adaptation of Life by George E. Vaillant, 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Passages, Gail Sheehy, and The Woman's Room by Marilyn French. My goodness, like, what a year's worth of reading that is. Oh my goodness. Well, any list that starts off with that title is going to be a good year. So 1989 to 1990. Beginning the year in 1989, Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. First book of the year for the book club. Second book of the year on the book club, War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. What a year that must have been. All right, what do they read next after all that Tolstoy? Well, they read The Duel and Other Stories by Anton Chekhov. Like, what a Russian year it's turning out to be. Well, that would have been the fall of the Berlin Wall, but would they have known it at the time? It was in the later half of 1989, wasn't it? It was like, wasn't it October? And then, oh wow, what a sudden shift. An Artist of the Floating World by Kazuo Ishiguro, which is a novel I love. Not That Sort of Girl by Mary Wesley. Cat's Eye, Margaret Atwood. Wow, Canadian. I haven't read. Lie Down in Darkness by William Styron. I've never been able to find that book and I've been looking for it. Mr. Bridge by Evan Connell. And Mrs. Bridge by Evan Connell. Waiting for Childhood by Summer Locke Elliott. And The Bean Trees by Barbara Kingsolver. Unbelievable. What highbrow tastes in literature these people have. All right, I shouldn't just read lists of titles, but one more. 2023 to 2024, recent. What are they reading? 50 years later. The Book of Goose by Yi-Yun Lee. Lucy by the Sea by Elizabeth Strout. All Passion Spent by Vita Sackville-West. Orlando by Virginia Woolf. Orlando. Avid Reader by Robert Gottlieb. Call for the Dead by John le Carré. Heaven and Earth Grocery Store, James McBride. Travels with Charlie, John Steinbeck. I've been meaning to read that one. A Man's Place by Annie Ernaux. And A Woman's Story by Annie Ernaux. And finally, finishing up the year, Fahrenheit 451, Ray Bradbury. So year by year, the breakdown of all the books. And then, now I don't want to share anyone's personal names or information, but then at the very last page of the book, book group members, 1975 to 1925, they have the names of the people, how many years they were active. Some people were only active for 1 year. I see some people were active for 10 years. And Pam, who sent me this, active for 50 years, 3 years, 13 years, 15 years, 2 years, 36 years. Also, this little additional bit of information. Books read, 545. Authors read, 416. Authors read multiple times, 129. Male authors, 232. Female authors, 184. Good job. Wow. Almost an even split. That's impressive. Most read authors. The most hated one is number 1. Henry James, 9 titles. You know, like I feel like I'm one of those people that don't understand like why people put pineapple on pizza or why people like the taste of cilantro. I love both of those things, but when it comes to Henry James, I'm still one of those people like, I just don't get it. I just don't get what the idea is with the Henry James. Maybe one day I will get it, but today he's the author I absolutely hate the most. Like if you gave someone a pizza with pineapple on it and they just punched you in the face. That's how I feel about Henry James. I love pineapple on pizza. My favorite pizza is a Hawaiian with green olives. Second most popular, Willa Cather, 6 times. Edith Wharton, 5 times. Mark Twain, 4 titles, and Virginia Woolf, 4 titles. And with 3 titles, wow, look at all the names there for 3 titles. Wow, Elizabeth Bowen, Scott Fitzgerald, Graham Greene, excellent. Hemingway, Ishiguro, 3 titles, really. Artist of the Floating World, I know that one already. Remains of the Day, and then another one. Never Let Me Go? Maybe. Somerset Maugham, great. Vladimir Nabokov, 3 titles by Nabokov. Lolita, obviously. Pale Fire. What's the third one? What is the third Nabokov? I'll have to check it. Muriel Spark, fantastic. Steinbeck, Yves Lenoir. Yeah, I'm a bit funny about Yves Lenoir. He did Brideshead Revisited, love it, but then he did the funny ones, not so much. Please join a book club. Think how rewarding that has been to meet with these people. Like it seems like they meet once a month because there's roughly 10, 12 books per year. Think how much fun you can have. Well, maybe fun is the wrong word, but I guess if you're watching a channel like mine, you probably think reading is just as much fun as I do. Imagine that. Reading highbrow literature with a capital L, none of the dreck, and reading the good stuff and meeting other people who've been diligently reading as well and having a conversation about it. Here in Canada, I've got one friend who reads. His name is Alan. We used to lend each other books, but Alan would lend me books and I would diligently read them, and I would lend Alan books and maybe he read them, maybe he didn't. Alan, like I don't have anyone to talk, like I started this YouTube channel so that I could have someone to talk about books with. Hello, that's why I'm here and you're here, because I need to talk about books with someone. Think how fantastic it would be if you had something like this in your life for 50 years. I know not everybody's going to be over the moon about saying, oh, War and Peace, god damn, I've been looking forward to that for a long time. But once you get into it, I haven't read it yet, shamefully, but I will. I've read Anna Karenina. And sometimes we need that little push. Sometimes we need a bit of, you have to make the time to read those books. And think how rewarding it would be to have 50 years of good educational reading, to be able to go to a group. What did you think about these characters? What did you think about these decisions that these characters made which led to this? What did you think about the author's style? How did you feel about reading Ernest Hemingway in the 2020 years? Is it problematic reading Ernest Hemingway these days? Problematic. What wonderful discussions you can have. So thank you very much, Pam. Congratulations. What an achievement. What a wonderful human cultural achievement it is to have put in all of that time and effort and to celebrate it with this booklet. Thank you very much for sending it to me. That's all. That's what I wanted to say today, that I think this is one of the greatest things you could do with your life, to do something as intellectually enriching as to be a part of a book club like this. Go out there and join a book club. Start a book club. Start it. Be the founder and say, we're going to read the highbrow stuff. We're going to read War and Peace. We're going to read Ulysses. We're going to read Henry James. We're going to read Virginia Woolf. We're going to read the serious stuff. Of course, throw in some fun books. I didn't see any Philip Roth on the list, but I haven't looked too carefully yet. I guess did he make it into the top 3? Pam, Philip Roth. There's so much out there to read. Time is so precious and valuable. Don't waste it with the Instagram and the video games and the stupid streaming, the new series. Do you remember when Game of Thrones just took over society? And it was like, okay, I guess for the next 6 years, society's just going to be Game of Thrones. We're all just going to do that. Okay, all right, let's do that. I just remember, when I lived in Budapest, these cultural, shitty cultural things that they would come and they would be a part of the culture, and I would just be so desperate for them to go away. There was the Harry Potter series, and it was so significant, but I always knew that one day it would come to an end. One day they were going to finish, the teenagers were going to get too old, the story would be at an end, and there would be no more Harry Potter. But then there was also the superhero movies just dominated everything. It seems like we're at the tail end of that and the superhero movies are going out. But then there's all the little bumps in between, the Lord of the Rings movies, the Game of Thrones series, piles of shit, dump truck loads getting poured onto our lives. And it just makes it so hard to find the time and to be able to appreciate good literature. You really have to plug your ears, close the windows, and live like a monk to be able to say, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to read a 1,000-page novel that's over 100 years old. I will do that. My favorite author these days is Émile Zola, and he was writing about French society during the, what is it called in France? I forget, the Second Empire. The Second Empire, that's it. I don't know what the Second Empire means, but I know that I love these books, and it makes me want to learn more about European history, French history specifically, so I can appreciate what he's writing about. But even if I don't have that historical reference, the books are still wonderful to read. Not everybody is going to think that that is their cup of tea, but it's my cup of tea. And I recommend it to you, and that's why I started this channel, because I crave people like this who appreciate literature as much as this, more than I do, I think, because they're willing to put those years in. I've been on this YouTube channel for 4 years now. Will I be able to keep it up for 50 years? I highly doubt it. Well, for one thing, I would be 102 years old. So yeah, I think 50 years might be a little bit too much for me. 102, sitting here all hunched over I read a book the other day by Philip Roth. Oh, it was good. Pam, thank you very much for sending me this. Please keep going with your book club. I hope that it just continues on and on, reading, appreciating, trying, attempting to read great literature, because that's what it's all about. All the pop culture stuff, you could just flush it down the toilet and you won't even miss it. Literature is what I care about, very, very deeply and sincerely. Start a book club. This is Grant Loves Books. I wish I had people around me who I could form a club like this, but maybe this little YouTube fandango is my attempt at doing that. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks a lot. Thanks again, Pam. I really appreciate it. Take care.